All right. Welcome to Living Right with Dr. Ray. Thanks for joining us. I am Ray Guarendi, clinical psychologist. I've been shrinking for about 30 years. I used to be like 6'9". In the next hour, we are going to try our best to help you live right along with these good folks. Packed show today. We got Father Larry Richards, who's coming in with Catechism wisdom like he always is here. Good stuff. We have a real child psychologist. We have Dr. Liz coming in to give us her perspective of life and people and what we're all doing wrong, as well as Dr. Rich Jusseaume, president of Walsh University in North Canton, Ohio. He's going to tell us what's so special about a Catholic university education. One of the tough parts of doing this show, folks, is you got to be up all the time. And, okay, I can confess, I'm not up today. My wife and I have been having these little tiffs. Every time we do, she brings up the same theme. Ray, would you please get out of the 70s? Ladies, one thing about us guys, you know this. All you have to do is tell us to do something one time, we do it. I'm sensing incredulity here. I didn't want to hear this get out of the 70s stuff anymore. Our anniversary was coming up. I was going to go get her a gift by myself. I'm not going to bring any of my daughters to help me. I have 5 boys, and, well, my wife calls my 5 girls estrogen Americans. I'm not going to bring any of the girls to help me. The girls know their mother up one side, down the other. The boys don't even know they have a mother half the time. The average 5-year-old girl walks up to her mother, excuse me, Mother. While I do appreciate the guidance you've given me these first few years, I feel compelled to tell you, you were wrong on most of it. Why don't you raise Dad? He's got about 10 or 12 more years of middle school to go through. The average 16-year-old boy is still doing this. Mom, where's the ice cubes? No, I asked Dad. He don't know where they are either. My daughter Liz is 12. She can run the whole family. My son James, going to be 17, still throwing dirt balls at the house. You know, these are not the same species. So I went out by myself, get her a gift. Not going to hear this get out of the 70s stuff anymore. I bought her one of those mood rings. See, that's kind of how she reacted, sort of like that. Okay, fine. Laugh. Those things work. They do. She's in a good mood, turns green. She's in a bad mood, leaves a red mark on my forehead. One of my favorite parts of the show is coming up. It's where we get to ask you what you want to ask. Now, one of the programs we did, people asked short answer essay questions. Let's make them true-false, okay? I'm better at those. I got a 50-50 chance of getting them. All right, we need some questions. Who do we have here for a question? Yes, ma'am. Your name?
I'm Judy.
Hi, Judy.
Hi, Dr. Ray. My question is, my husband and I have 6 biological grandsons, and we have 9 adopted grandsons. And my husband does not treat our adopted grandsons the same way that he treats our biological.
Treats them worse?
Yes.
Noticeably worse?
Noticeably worse. And my question is, should I say anything to either my husband or our grandsons about this disparity?
I got to assume, Judy, you've said something to your husband.
Well, he knows how I feel.
How does he know that?
Because I've told him it's not right.
So you've told him how many times, you think?
Oh, 20 times?
That's not bad. 20. Okay, I think it's time to stop. What I would do is go toward the kids or their mom and dad. I would say, look, I don't understand why he's doing this, but it's no reflection on you guys, and get mom or dad to tell that to the kids. Judy, what's going to happen is as the kids get older, they're just going to size this up with bigger eyes, and they're going to say, well, we kind of see where Grandpa's coming from here. And what will happen, Grandpa right now has done this to them. 5 years from now, they're going to do this to Grandpa. So I think what you need to do is just don't say anymore. You've said enough. He knows how you think. What happens is, once you get past the 20 mark of telling somebody something, they tend to dig their heels in, and you're not going to budge them.
All
Thanks,
right,
Judy.
thank you, Dr. Ray.
What else do we have here? Yes, dear. Your name.
Hi, Dr. Ray. My name's Linda.
Hi, Linda.
I have a situation in our family where a family member, it'd be a niece of mine, is expecting out of wedlock. And it's kind of difficult. You want to keep the loving relationship in the family between my siblings and my parents, but yet somehow defend my faith and what I believe, yes, it's a child of God, but it isn't something that should be celebrated. We're all expected to congratulate and be happy. So I'm having a hard time reconciling how do I defend my position or how we feel about it without
Something
causing
tells
turmoil.
me your family knows exactly how you feel about it. It's probably pretty clear, right?
Probably.
You're kind of the Catholic moralist as they see it. Couple of things. Accept and love, you don't have to celebrate. In other words, you're probably frustrated because there's no difference. If this child would have been born to a married man and woman as opposed to a child being born to a single mother, it's all the same thing. Isn't this wonderful? We're going to have a celebration, then we're going to get you all kinds of shower gifts, and you're a little uncomfortable with that because you see that as equating it. They already know how you feel. What you do, you love her up, you accept her, you ask her questions about the baby. I mean, this is a life in there. You don't want to be the one, the moral one, who basically kind of does this. That doesn't win anybody over. On the other hand, you don't have to say, hey, this is every bit as good as any other way that a child can come into the world. All right? Accept, not necessarily celebrate with giddiness. We got time, I think, for one more. What do we got here?
Hi, Dr. Ray.
Sir, your name?
My name's Benny.
Hi, Benny.
My question is this: how does a teacher work with the parents of a child who chooses to use selective mutism in the classroom?
Are you like a psychologist or something? Selective mutism? You mean the kid talks in some places and he doesn't talk in others?
That's exactly right.
So you look like a principal to me.
Former principal.
I knew it! I knew these things. The kid, I take it, is not talking in the classroom.
The child is not talking in the classroom.
Jabbermouth at home.
That's what we understand.
That's the key. That's the key. If you got a kid who is basically shutting up in one circumstance, but in the other, they just chatter away, what you're witnessing, typically what happens, Benny, is first you got a kid with a temperament that's kind of shy, kind of a laid-back sort of temper. You're not going to get an obnoxious, in-your-face kid going, well, I'm not talking over there. No, you're going to get this kind of withdrawn sort of kid. Little intimidated by the numbers, maybe in the classroom. But what then tends to happen is there is a feedback loop. Pretty soon, the kid starts to do more and more of this. Because she doesn't have to talk. The other kids will say things like, oh yeah, that's Andrea. She doesn't talk. I'll get it for her. I advise the teachers, when I used to work at Head Start, I advise the teachers, what you do is you ask the child, did you want to set the table, honey? It's your turn to set the table. Did you want to? You'll need to say yes. Then at that point, you basically say, well, we'll try again later, and then you move on. So what you got to do is you got to link the briefest of talking with movement and privileges in the class, and then little by little, you expand it. Now, the questions part is easy. This is easy. I can stand up here and pontificate. Nobody really knows if I'm making a whole lot of sense or not. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. I want to go head-to-head, face-to-face with a parent. Sir, your name?
Ron.
Ron, can you come up here, please?
Sure.
You are going to be my dad. You are going to be my dad.
Okay.
I am your 14-year-old son. I, unbeknownst to you, even though you have been a strict father, you have not given me a cell phone. I've borrowed any one of my 27 friends' cell phones to text for the last year and a half, and I, in my mind, am completely in love with this 15-year-old girl.
Okay.
And she has just asked me, through text, on Christmas Eve, She has just asked me to come to her house this Saturday. Okay, Dad, I'm coming. Dad, Sheila wants me to come over.
Something's wrong here, though. I don't have a recliner and my remote.
Oh, you're okay. Well,
But
this is
go
the
ahead,
dad
yeah.
we have.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
Go
no
ahead.
recliner, no remote.
We'll have to go with
Can we
what
get a
have.
remote here for Dad here? He can't talk without his remote.
We'll have to go with what we have.
I use that with my daughters. I put it on mute. It doesn't work. I want to go. I'm coming at you. Sheila's asked me. I can't figure out why you're not going to let me. I've already asked Mom.
No.
No, why can't I go? You didn't even give me a reason
Reason for what?
to go to Sheila's.
Why? I'm watching the game.
But,
What?
okay, now I'm going to be Dad. You want to go to Sheila's.
We didn't finish this.
Well, I know this. You did. You shut it right
I
off.
shut you down. But that's typical
Okay, so
of a good parent.
you said no, and that was it.
That was it.
Because we had talked about this before, right? You notice that? This was not the first time we brought it up. He wasn't going to retread the same turf again. All right?
And when my dad said no,
That was it.
it was no.
It was no.
But let's
Okay,
go back.
real quick. We got about a minute here. I will be.
No. You can't go.
Wait a minute. Why? You said I could. Mom said I could.
You said it was okay with your mom?
Well, she said to ask.
Well, where do they live?
Oklahoma.
Can you get there in time?
Well, I can get it. I was going to ask you about the flight arrangements.
I gave you $1,500 to go to California last.
I know, but that was a different girl.
Why do you keep bringing it up?
I know, and he's making the point, and this is a good point. Why do I keep bringing it up? What's happening here is that he said no, and he sounds autocratic, right? He sounds like he's not being real understanding about this. The problem is, the backdrop to this whole thing is I've been battering him for the last 4 months, and he has every right in the world to just simply go no. Because if he goes any further, you saw what's going to happen. Here comes the argument. And I am not going to go, oh, Father, thank you. You've been so understanding in explaining that to me. I appreciate it so much. Thanks, Ron. I'm glad I didn't have you for a dad, man, but I did. Person bag. Dear Dr. Ray, my husband drinks alone with a pretty newly widowed woman. He doesn't think there's anything scandalous, but even my children have noticed. She used to be my very close friend. Her friendship transferred to my husband. On the night that my newborn was diagnosed with trisomy 13, and before he subsequently died, she took my husband to dinner, saying that he needed her support while I was in the hospital with my mom. I had toxemia. I just went along with it all. Currently, we don't have a friendship with her. And my husband blames me. I do a lot of marriage counseling. I have seen so many people come in. One spouse or the other says, I'm really uneasy about that relationship, but she says he's just a friend. He says she's just a friend. That doesn't usually happen. I think in this situation, Mom's got to make it real clear where she's at. Will that stop him? I don't know. But what's happening, and this is very common, she said something very, very significant. Did you hear it? He's mad at her. He blames her. That tells you right now there's more to this than he's willing to admit. If this was just, hey, we're buddies, okay, I don't have to see her, but he's getting mad, he's getting angry. You're ruining this for me. That's an indication right out that this is going somewhere bad. And I think what she needs to do is to really establish that she's not going to go along with this. Now, what may happen, people will say, well, if I do that, he's going to go crazy. That's the risk we almost have to take. Because otherwise, she's just going to watch him keep doing this at some point. And you know the other aspect to this? She says, we lost the friendship with this woman. I would probably want to say, you lost this friendship a long time ago because she's moving in on your husband. That seems pretty clear. How do you stop it? I deal with it in therapy a lot. The bottom line is, you got to be clear, 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 no question, no doubt. And then at that point, if the person goes over top of you and basically says, she called me and she needs to talk, you can't stop them. But hopefully, and I've seen this happen, hopefully, somehow, some way, as the person gets closer to breaking up the marriage, gets closer to losing his children, he starts to drop back. All right? Now, when we come back, Dr. Rich Jusseaume is going to be here. He is from Walsh University. He's going to tell us why one might want to consider a higher level Catholic education. I have to tell you, 2 of my children go to Walsh. The only reason I got him here, I need the tuition break. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Every student there, every faculty member there, is on some kind of faith journey. And our position is that when you get to the university, we're going to help you to move forward in that faith journey in as many ways as we can.
When you only focus on yourself, it's very unhealthy. Psychologically, spiritually, no matter what. Again, a life of self is a wasted life.
I love you. Welcome back to Living Right with Dr. Ray. My guest this segment is President Richard Jusseaume from Walsh University in North Canton, Ohio. Rich, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
I got a choice. I go to public college, public university. I can go to a place like Walsh. Catholic, more expensive. So make your case over and above why I should pay that tuition.
Well, let's take care of that part first. More expensive in terms of the sticker price.
Okay.
Very few people actually pay the sticker price. And at our university, 95% of our students are getting aid so that the actual cost of room and board at Walsh University would be about the same as a 4-year public university.
95% of your students are getting aid. That means 2 of my children are in the 5%.
They are. They are. They are.
Cut the segment. He's done. What is the advantage? I mean, you know the bad rap on a lot of Catholic colleges, universities. You know it. They got Catholic painted over top of them.
Well, we know that hundreds and hundreds of colleges in the United States were founded by faith-based groups. Nuns alone founded more than 300. Orders of priests and religious in different churches. But for many of those, even though they call themselves faith-based, that identity and relationship with the church or founding group has pretty much eroded. In the case of Walsh and the deliberately Catholic institutions, it's not merely a token thing, it's very much a part of the mission, and it really gets tied into curriculum and activity. For example, if you're studying nursing at Walsh University, you're going to take a class in ethics in nursing.
So that's part of the curriculum.
That's right.
The Catholic worldview, mindset, morality is interwoven in the curriculum.
Absolutely. If you were studying physical therapy, for example, you would be expected to do volunteer work in the community, to understand how the disenfranchised need to be helped as well. So in an orientation, it's beyond an academic program. It's beyond career preparation or let's get a job, but has a lot more to do with a bedrock belief that we're all mind, body, and spirit, and to only pay attention to 2 of those would be an inadequate education.
You've been at Walsh how long?
Oh, on and off for about 47 years.
On and off. So did you finally get your bachelor's?
I finally got it just recently. I was awarded an honorary bachelor.
Honorary bachelor's. I'm hoping my kids can get an honorary associate.
It's probably going to take that.
I'm looking at universities. I'm a Catholic parent.
Okay.
I'm thinking to myself, how do I judge, say, someplace like Walsh, for a shaping of my kids' morality, my kids' Catholic identity? I don't know. When I walk in your classes, I see a crucifix. Okay, but how do I?
Well, part of it is certainly the ambiance of the environment. You walk around, there's a prayer garden, the chapel, the mandatory crucifixes, and that's a part of it. But you really have to go beyond that and ask yourself, is there a majority, for example, of the faculty that's actually Catholic?
I can ask that. You can
may.
provide those to me.
Absolutely. We can give you information on that. And you recognize as well that not every student is going to be Catholic. In our case, just under 60%. But it goes beyond that, and it speaks to the fact that every student there, every faculty member there, is on some kind of faith journey. And our position is that when you get to the university, we're going to help you to move forward in that faith journey in as many ways as we can.
You saying that's part of the hiring process or sort of the
Absolutely
screening
is.
of the folks?
The last interview for faculty and staff people is with me, and we talk about the mission. And we talk about making sure that Jesus Christ is going to be known. And for a professor to get tenure, he or she has to address...
Pray in Aramaic.
He or she has to address the board and say how they are contributing to this Catholic mission of the university, regardless of what their own orientation might be. It's a condition of employment.
There was an article in the National Catholic Register. This is how long ago? A couple years ago?
About a year ago.
About a year ago. National Catholic Register, of course, is here with EWTN. It's part of the EWTN media reach out. They had some awful nice words to say about Walsh. Tell me what they called you guys.
Well, they actually came on campus, and the reporter from the Catholic Register was representing the Cardinal Newman Society, which attempts to determine if an institution is truly and deliberately Catholic in all aspects of its operations versus having the title of Catholic. And so their reporters walked around the campus for a couple of days, talked to students, talked to faculty, talked to chaplains, walked around the residence halls and so on, and determined that in fact we really were making a significant effort to follow the Catholic magisterium, to be mainline in terms of Catholic thought and teaching, and that as they walked around the campus, they get a sense that no one was apologizing for being Catholic, but rather celebrating it instead. And on the basis of that, decided that, in fact, they would give us their imprimatur, and the Newman Society would advocate for Walsh University as a distinctly Catholic institution.
Didn't they call you, was it a gem of the Midwest? How did they put that?
A hidden jewel in the Midwest.
Hidden jewel in the Midwest. That had to make you feel pretty good.
I thought they were talking about me.
Is
frankly.
that right? Well, you're not all that hidden, big boy.
It turned out they weren't. But as they took a look at the kind of tens of thousands of hours of volunteer work our students do, the work we do in East Africa, in a couple of the countries there with our programs, and the kinds of efforts on campus to celebrate our Catholic identity rather than try to hide it. When I first became president, some people came to advise me that we really ought to downplay this Catholic identity. It would inhibit enrollment growth. Young people don't want to go to a Catholic institution.
What was the enrollment then?
The enrollment was about 1,200.
What's it now?
It's just under 3,000.
See?
We did the opposite.
See what happened?
We did the opposite.
That's
We
fantastic.
proclaimed our Catholic identity.
I know personally, as I said, 2 of my kids go to Walsh. We love it. The one thing I would probably change a little bit, and take this from a layperson, okay? When you come in the cafeteria, you got the fruit right here. Probably should have the main dish right when you come in. I think that would, nicer touch. That's the first thing I noticed when I was there.
I would imagine that somebody was probably buying you lunch, right?
You. You.
The single greatest complaint on our campus is not that we don't have enough parking places, but they aren't exactly where the students would like them to be.
Is that right?
Otherwise, we do okay.
They went right next to the building.
Unlike you, the students are willing to walk around the dining room and find the things that they want.
I felt a little bad. I was sitting in the cafeteria going. Actually, I have many more questions. We only got a couple more minutes, but I gotta get to this stuff. Are you saying that you use the word deliberately Catholic? All right. That's a very conscious move.
That's correct.
Are you saying that you, in terms of any major, you actually say this kind of volunteer work, this kind of ethics course, religion is that's it, it's required?
Every bit of it, because in each instance, every discipline has to answer the question, how does the work that we're doing contribute to the mission of the university? It's easy to be accidentally faith-based because of sponsorship or founding.
Okay.
But to every day carry on that legacy of the church and of the faith is probably the greatest challenge of all. Building buildings and raising endowment is work. Creating, building, fostering, and sustaining a legacy is the most difficult of all.
You gave me an interesting stat when we talked once informally. You have a heavy number of children considering religious vocations.
Absolutely. And the more that we ourselves were willing to celebrate that Catholic faith, and the more priests and sisters were attending classes, the chaplain was a Dominican walking around in white robes and unapologetic, happy to proclaim that. All of a sudden, 5 and 6 students a year were joining religious life as sisters and becoming priests. 1 year, 6 of them, in fact, went off to religious life and seminary.
I was reading in canon law that if you do something like this, and you get that many religious folks moving in that direction, you get partial credit. Yeah, you could
You don't
like
get
2%
You
credit.
don't get partial credit, but all of a sudden, vocation directors from dioceses
I see.
and religious life take serious interest in you. And in our case, the diocese wants to open a house of studies on the campus. And we'll do that in January.
Hey, the hidden jewel of the Midwest, Walsh University, and we picked it to represent the philosophy, the mindset of a good, solid, faith-based Catholic university. Again, Rich, can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
Back when I was a young shrinkling, we were told as much as possible hang around with colleagues, people who have opinions that can help you out. So on Living Right with Dr. Way, we decided we're going to bring on the real child psychologist. We have Liz. Liz has some very definite opinions about, well, how good her parents are. Let's see what Liz has to say. Your name is Elizabeth?
Yes.
Does your mom or your dad have a nickname for you?
Yes, my dad calls me Elizabeth.
Elizabeth! How does he get away with that?
Well, I don't really care that he calls me that because I know he loves me and he's just kidding around.
Does he have any other nicknames? Like Lizifer?
Yeah, and he calls me Belly May. He used to call me Belly
No,
May.
he didn't call you Bell. What kind of father do you have? Well, I have a question for you, honey. You're 11. Now, some people say that 11-year-old girls can get pretty snooty, pretty tooty. Would you get accused of that?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, I like the way you rolled the eyes with that right away quick. It just kind of happened, didn't it? Automatic, it just sort of like that. Who would accuse you of that? Mom, dad, brothers, sisters?
I think all of them would.
It's like a unanimous vote. You know, we vote Lizzie Tootie, all of us vote. The mailman would vote it, the neighbor lady, grandma would vote it, your second cousin once removed. Well, how do they decide you're Tootie?
Well, sometimes if I don't get what I want a lot, that can make me snooty.
That makes you snooty. You don't make you snooty, that makes you snooty.
Yeah.
Is that the main reason you get snooty, or sometimes you just feel like it?
Yeah, I guess that too. I feel like it sometimes.
Well, how do you control yourself?
Well, if they say, Liz, if you don't control yourself, you're going on blackout. That definitely makes me settle down.
What's blackout, honey?
It's where you lose everything. You can't have the computer, television, anything. You can only read saint books. And
You only read saint books.
And you have to do a ton of school, extra school, and you have to help mom around the house a lot.
How often is your mom and dad wrong? Where you say, you think to yourself, no, that's not right. They're wrong. They're wrong. They shouldn't be doing it that way.
I think 50% of the time.
50%. Okay, well, who accounts for most of that 50%, your mom or your dad?
Well, my mom, because she sees it a lot more, she's with me a lot more, so I think she would know if I was...
She's wrong 50% of the time. That's half. Did you ever tell her, Mom, once again, you missed it?
Well, if I would tell her you're wrong, because we do lie, and if we...
Whose kid are you? Boy, I gotta talk to your parents.
Because if we... Sometimes she believes another person. Sometimes it just depends if they have a better story. It just depends.
Better story.
Yes.
Do you have brothers and sisters, I take it? Okay.
Yes.
And so they can give a story different from yours.
Oh, yes.
Well, she should believe you, right? Look at that face. That face wouldn't fib.
I'm not sure.
Okay. How do you know they mean it?
When they tell you, well, a lot of the time they say, Liz, we love you very much. That is why we're punishing you.
Do you buy that? That sounds like a parent phrase that they all say.
I do buy it a lot.
Well, wait. If they loved you, they really loved you, they'd just say, no. You did wrong, but I'm not going to punish you because that'll hurt your feelings and that'll make you feel bad. And I know you don't like blackouts, so it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Well, if they really did that, then we would definitely be messed up when we're older because we wouldn't know what to do with our own kids, and then they'd be wild. And
your parents would never come to your house because they couldn't have any peace.
Maybe.
I believe it was Johnny Carson who said, don't share the stage with kids or animals. They will one-up you. I'd gotten some contact from Liz's attorney. She wants her own show, clearly. A special treat, Liz the star is here in the audience. Lizzie, could you come up here, honey? Your name is again?
Liz.
Liz. What is your last name?
Gurendi.
Wait, that's the same last name as mine.
Yep.
Are we related?
You're my dad.
Get out! All right. We do have a couple of things we have to talk about here, Liz. What's this 50% wrong thing? You're going to be 50% blacked out, okay? You're going to be on brownout.
Hey, I could have given you 40%. You're lucky I gave you 50%.
Well, at least it was mostly mom, right?
Yeah.
My percentage of being wrong is like maybe 6%, 7%, somewhere in there.
20, something like that. I don't know.
My attorney will be contacting you. Goodbye, baby.
Now where's my $100?
Yeah, you're grounded. Well, how do you raise a kid who thinks you're wrong 50% of the time? Or is that not a bad percentage? From a kid's perspective, that's pretty good. What do you think? What do you think about what Liz said there? We got a comment, a question, related? Young lady, I will bring you this. Your first name?
Marty.
Hi, Marnie. Hi. Help me.
If two kids say they're both not at fault, what do you do? Whose side do you take? Do you punish them both?
Well, Marnie, do you have security cameras in your house? You need security cameras. You need to review the tapes. You need to see who did it. We used to have security cameras until the children put duct tape over the lenses. My one son shot out the lens, okay? I told him no more BB guns. trying to figure out who did what to whom, when, where, and how much is almost impossible. Almost impossible. Tell them to quit looking at me. I didn't look at you. Why would I look at your big ugly face? See, Mom, that's how he talks when you're not around. I don't talk that way. I don't talk that way at all. You can't get to the bottom of one of those things. Much of the time, parents act in obliviousness. I think a good house rule, I don't know, I have to do for both. Of course, you know what happens, Marnie. That's not fair. I didn't even do anything. How come you always believe everything he says? Yeah, at this point, what you do is you got to make a judgment as a parent. I always tell parents, this is not a criminal court. You don't need evidence beyond a shadow of a doubt. This is a civil court. You just need a preponderance of the evidence or your own judgment. All right, when we come back, Father Larry Richards, as always, here with us, Catechism Wisdom, and he's got some good stuff. Stay tuned. Your IQ, whether you like it or not, is going to go up.
Jesus first, others second, yourself last. That's the exact opposite of what the world says, but when you do that, you will have a joyful life.
Is it a sin to put a parent in a nursing home? Does the church say anything about this stuff? Who has more wisdom about living right? The Catholic Church, approximately 2,000 years old, founded by Jesus Christ himself, or modern psychology, roughly 80 to 90 years old, approximately the age of my guest, Father Larry Richards, who is pastor of St. Joseph Church.
See what I have to put up with.
in Erie, Pennsylvania, and a very well-known speaker.
Yeah, really.
Father Larry, church talks a lot about charity, right? Let me read to you something that the Catechism says, section 2447. The works of mercy are charitable actions by which we come to the aid of our neighbor in his spiritual and bodily necessities. Instructing, advising, consoling, comforting are spiritual works of mercy. My profession says that we need to have people meet our needs. Mm-hmm. My profession says to the degree that I am recognized and served, I feel good about myself, and that in fact I will function better. Now, this here seems to be a little, I don't want to say antagonistic, but maybe contrary to that.
The way of the world says me, me, me. The way of God says you, you, you. And when we sit there and we focus on the reality, it's in giving away your life, Jesus says, you find life. That is so anti-world, isn't it?
I serve to feel better?
Exactly. That's where we get everything. It's in giving away your life that you find life. That's the cross. That's the way of Christianity.
That's contrary to conventional wisdom.
Usually. Yeah, and that's the point.
Okay. Well, enough said there. Yeah, I'm sorry. You know, Catechism puts things on its head according to conventional wisdom.
Absolutely. Jesus comes and changes the world and turns the world upside down and says, you want life, then you give away life. And it's in that we find true life. It's in serving that we become more fully who we are. As God left heaven, if you will, became a man and gave his life for us. And when we do the same, just as he found eternal life in his humanity, so will we.
If we go against our design, if I basically say, no, I'm on the lookout for people to take care of me, to meet my desires, my wants, my needs, are you saying that I might not function as well?
I'm saying you could die. You know,
that's a pretty strong statement.
Exactly,
there.
absolutely.
Maybe
when
just
you're only
ill or something.
No, when you only focus on yourself, it's very unhealthy. Psychologically, spiritually, no matter what. Again, a life of self is a wasted life. And so it's the lie that society has given us throughout the years. You got to take care of number one first. God says, I'll take care of number one. You take care of others. And when you give away and you live a life of service, that's when you're going to find life.
So others are number one.
You got it. I have a thing that says, Jesus first, others second, yourself last. The life of joy, huh? Jesus first, others second, yourself last. That's the exact opposite of what the world says, but when you do that, you will have a joyful life.
Interesting study done with the elderly. They said that those elderly who were most content, most well-adjusted, were those who had a wide social network. The interpretation, the conventional psychological interpretation was, well, that they had people ministering to them. They had people taking care of them. In fact,
was that correct?
No.
Oh.
The researchers kind of had to do an about-face.
Wow.
They essentially said it was because these elderly had a network to serve.
Isn't that amazing?
And I don't even know if these researchers were Christian or not, but God's reality always smacks you in the face, doesn't it?
Sure. And I think that it's just a given that if you're generous with your life and generous, then generosity flows back towards you. If you're selfish and think, I have to take care of myself, nothing flows towards you because you have to become the God of your own universe, and then everything stays here. But when you give and you become more concerned with others, then all that same stuff that you're giving comes back to you. It's cast your bread upon the waters and see what comes back to you. It's scriptural.
See, you got the Catechism, who mirrors our Lord's ways, telling us serve is the best way to be psychologically well and whole, as opposed to being served. But I want to be served.
Of course.
I want to be served.
And see, isn't that the greatness of God? That when we serve others, then God himself serves us. He takes care of us. He becomes the God who leaves heaven and serves us and gives his life for us. So there's that need in us, of course, to be served, but it's only when we're taking care of others that God says, okay, you take care of others, I'll take care of you. So we never lose.
God's wisdom, not necessarily the way of the world, but it is wisdom that works because he designed us, serve or be served. Our Lord says, serve. For Catechism Wisdom with Father Larry Richards, I'm Dr. Ray. I was particularly moved by that because all I kept thinking was, would you go get me a cup of coffee? Could you check my right rear tire? There's a wobble in it. I just wanted to see if we could fix that. People come into my office for marriage counseling, and sometimes it's so intractable you don't know where to begin, the misery. And I offer them this, knowing they're not going to come back sometimes. I'll say, you want to change your spouse? You make your spouse much more pleasant to live with? Or at the very least tolerable? You want to do that? I know how you can do it. It's very simple. It's not easy, it's very simple. Change yourself. I lose more clients. What did you think about this whole idea here that you become happier by giving yourself away? You see a little child, you want to spoil them rotten, give them everything they want. Are they happy? Oh, mother, you've met my every need. You've pretty much made me a prima donna, and I'm so content with life. I feel so good. It doesn't work. You even see it with kids. I have a question for you. If it's so good for us, why do we resist it? We can all sit here in the comfort of this studio and say, yes, I serve, I feel better. I know this is the way to do it. And then we get married, and then we get along with our mother, and then we get along with our children, and all of a sudden, I'm not sure I want to do this. I'll serve, but don't ask me to serve a whole lot. In a moment, we're going to come up with some senior ideas. We call it senior moments. We're going to find out from a perspective on the long end of life questions that can sometimes unsettle even the most settled person. Well, we're moving to the latter part of show, and we're also going to move to the latter part of years. This is senior moments. We've got a question I think a pretty heartfelt one. From Chris. Chris says, Dr. Ray, is it a sin to put a parent in a nursing home? Does the church say anything about this stuff? I take care of my 83-year-old dad here at home for the past 6.5 years and get no help from my only brother. A friend of mine who had been taking care of his 92-year-old mother for about 6 years just put her in assisted living because of her semi-frequent verbal outbursts and general crabbiness. She was apparently being verbally abusive to his wife too. What does one do in a case like this? I am no moral theologian, certainly not a priest, but I think the answer in church teaching is pretty straightforward. Is it a sin to put a person in a nursing home who needs a nursing home? No. As a matter of fact, one could probably make the case that it might be a sin not to. My mother-in-law was in our home. My wife took care of the yeoman's work of my mother-in-law in our home for about 2 years. She had Alzheimer's. It got to the point where we could no longer protect her. She would fall. The stairs were terribly dangerous. We had everything locked up. We had to get an electric stove. It got to the point where we risked her safety, and that's where the struggle comes in with families. One part of the family says, no, it's not time yet. Another part of the family says, yes, it is. This is risky. And I've seen so many families crack over something like this. You make a judgment. You make a good, profound, sensitive judgment. I can't handle this. It's beyond my ability. I have to move to the next step. Did you ever wonder what society did before nursing homes? How to be taken care of? Now, I know there are folks here in this group that have taken care of elderly relatives or have had to make that decision. Do we have someone? Yes, young lady, do you need a microphone? There you go. Your name?
Sandy.
Hi, Sandy.
My mother lived with us for 7 years, and it got to the point where physically I could not take care of her. She was not able to get out of bed and even go to the potty chair beside her bed. My family was very concerned about me, so they encouraged me to put her in a nursing home, which I did. One of the hardest things I ever had to do in my life, because she was very accepting. She knew I did it because I had to, but you never want to see your loved one in that situation. I don't care how good the nursing home is. It's not home.
It's especially hard when they resist and they believe that you are attempting to throw them overboard because they don't understand. Oftentimes, with the physical fragility comes the mental, emotional deterioration. And at that point, I remember my grandfather looking at my mother, who had to put him in the hospital, and he said, "Emile, you do this to me." He could not understand. She's looking at her dad, who basically all his life loved her, who she took care of, and some of his last words were, "How could you do this?" But she did what she had to do. And I think wherever he is, I bet he understands now. I bet he does. Thank you, Sandy. We're coming to the end of another Living Right with Dr. Ray. I hope you got a few pointers for living right. I know this bunch right here, their IQ went up a few points. Some of you straggled a little bit, some of you dipped, but you weren't paying attention, Benny. That's the problem. What did we learn? Well, we saw that there are differences between boys and girls. As a general rule, the girls seem to be just a shade more socially competent, but that usually evens out, maybe somewhere around 110 years. Okay, the guys generally catch up. And what wisdom did we learn from Father Larry Richards? Pretty simple. It is better to serve than to be served. What else? President Rich Jusseaume was here from Walsh University. The hidden jewel of the Midwest, National Catholic Register called it. He said, a good Catholic institution attempts to weave Catholic identity, Catholic morality, Catholic teaching in with the curriculum, and not just in theology, but in philosophy, in nursing, in education. And we talked to Dr. Liz, 11-year-old Dr. Liz, who basically told us that my wife was wrong 50% of the time. And that Liz realized, Daddy finds out that the children lie. Liz, we're going to talk. Thanks for joining me here on Living Right with Dr. Ray. See you again next time. Bye, everybody. Next time on Living Right with Dr. Ray, which is a more important discipline word, consistency or perseverance? You'll find out why wise aren't always wise. And the Catechism says, accept children as a gift from God. Rose Malavolti, a mother of 21, 17 adopted, accepted them. Next time.